have been registering some very good economic indicators. We talk about the Pakistani's reserves, that is the foreign exchange reserves. We talk about the debt to GDP coming down, that has contributed in benefiting Pakistan's economy a lot. International credit ratings have also improved in many ways. International organizations are now accepting that Pakistan has had a debt crisis, and now they are able to signs, and some of reporting that after the stability signs, Pakistan is launching into the future. The projects that are upcoming, and CPAC is one big project that everybody is talking about, everybody is eyeing on, is one big thing for the Pakistani economy, not only for the Pakistani economy, but for the regional economy as well, as the Chinese investors are interested, Chinese government is interested in many projects in Pakistan. So Pakistan is standing tall to take up these challenges and reap huge benefits out of it. But there are concerns also, since we are going towards the next budget in 2016 in 2 months' time. So it's time to talk about Pakistan's economy in its wholesale manner. How are the positive indicators are growing in a better direction, and what are the challenges that we are facing at the moment? So these are the things that we are going to talk about today, and we have the guest today. Let me introduce to you. We have Mr. Faheem Sardar. He is the head of the Askari Securities, and he is talking about economic affairs at different fora. Faheem sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we are also honored by the presence of Dr. Shumail Dawood. He is the former president of Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and he is an entrepreneur as well. Dr. Sir, welcome to the program. Faheem sir, can we describe in a nutshell, Pakistan's economy, the ups and downs, the positives and the negatives, although we quite like to talk about the negatives first, but let's start with, for a change, about the positives.
Nutshell, I mean, you sure, thanks. Pakistan's economy has improved over the past few years, and one of the strangest ironies that I discovered during my research was that when we had this full-blown fourth generation war, our GDP was actually slowly rising, and it recently, once again, it touched a historical high of 270 billion US dollars. This is official. But we have to, well, okay, let's talk about the positives first. We've had a good interest rate situation where they're at
one of the lowest in the last 2 decades?
No, 4 decades.
4 decades?
Yeah. And we've got a low inflation situation. Things are under control. Now, internally, we have to show our respect for the private sector. Now, I mean, disclaimer here, because I am from the private sector, but what I have to say here is that the private sector has worked so hard to build things up against so many challenges and imbalances. So that's basically contributed to Pakistan's economy, and it has a direct spillover effect onto the government. There are other important things happening within Pakistan, some infrastructural aspects like CPEC, TAPI, CASA, and various other projects. But we have to look at the international environment for just a little bit. Why? Because oil prices are at phenomenally low levels, and this is not going to happen or stay the same way for forever. Extended. Pakistan's more polished, more glossy strength, our strength once you've got economics. So Pakistan has done things right, but we have to throw caution to the wind regarding certain things, and we have to keep this momentum growing.
Okay, let me get Dr. Shumail into this also. What is your positive outlook? We will put on our challenging hat on, certainly, but what do you think that these are the few things, as some of the pointed out by Faheem Saab? What's your point?
Well, I agree with Faheem. All the positives are there, and you know, the international, you can say, pundits are you know, eyeing into, for example, our stock markets are coming up, our credit ratings are improving, and we are hoping that that is going to draw in, you know, foreign direct investment. CPEC obviously is supposed to be the game changer. Now, with all these positives, I think my really focus is from the private sector is that is this really trickling down to the common, beneficiary? So the issue is that, okay, our growth has shown better results, but is it inclusive growth? Is it really taking on the, are they really benefiting? So that the challenge is where the macroeconomic stability is definitely there, which pleases the IMF because of the IMF program, and which definitely helps us graduate to the next level. But now the next level is that, what about the CPAC? Now CPAC is a game changer, and how are we going to really convert that game changer to an inclusive growth, which actually creates jobs, because of the biggest challenge and population, especially say mainstream. I look at it from that standpoint. The challenges.
I just that for the benefit of the people at the ground.
No, what I'm saying is that this is a good story to start with, and I agree with Faheem that it's a good story, and we have to be more, you can say, we have to look forward how this really becomes, the change or the growth engine towards then which actually benefits the whole.
I know that, increases but I'm talking about the masses. For example, these oil prices are coming down, and historically 8.5 rupees have been brought to the masses, or some of the transporters have brought their fares down. But the point here is it the structural flaws in the economy which are not allowing this benefit to go to the common masses, and there are leakages, there are third parties in between, or that the notorious taxation system that we have, or the bureaucracy that is not helping hand? What could be the basic 2-3 indicators?
Well, from my standpoint, I think since you brought up, how the government could increase their, from the tax revenue, I look at the, you can say the sleeping or the parallel economy. It is a lively part of the economy. Our economy has been able to overcome the shocks because of this, hidden economy. And I really want to raise another question.
So this hidden economy is a double-edged sword?
It is a double-edged sword, and I want to bring that up because why did it burden in many ways yourself? The economy has burgeoned, and it has people knew that the state lived in certain aspects for education, health. You can, it's a whole list. So many other aspects of society, and so people came, our parallel economy, undocumented, serving the
hidden economy, or the parallel economy, or some people call it a black economy or dark economy, that is equally contributing into the Pakistani overall economic milieu, may not be contributing to the government taxation collection. But how do you see from the perspective of a banker or from a stock exchange person that this economic sector is still remain untapped, but still it is benefiting?
Once again, I think that's a pretty tricky question, because look, it is a reality which we need to discuss very openly, as we are doing here right now. Sometimes the government appears to try to understand this aspect, and it just does not seem to be able to handle it. Now, why it can't handle this is I fail to understand that. But your unofficial sector, let's just say I wouldn't call it gray economy, or let's say your parallel economy, is basically, it is 3 to 4 times of your GDP.
Okay.
Let's just let that sink in for a second here. Let's go back to the numbers.
3 to 4 times in terms of...
I'll just explain that. Your GDP is around about 260, 270 billion US dollars. This is official. Now you might want to multiply that by, let's say, a minimum of 3. That's your act.
Okay.
You're shy of $1 trillion. Okay. Now, there is a reason people don't want to make it official. There is a reason people are afraid to make it official. And we're living...
Who are these common public?
I think it's the business community. It could be anybody, but what I'm trying to highlight here is the fact that people get discouraged, people are scared. Some very basic numbers. Bangladesh, it's around about 22, 25 billion, whatever.
25, around.
Now, Iran has exports of around about 95 billion in a sanctioned country. India is 300 billion. Vietnam is 130 billion. Bangladesh is 31 billion. Now, you see, we're doing something seriously wrong here. There is something seriously wrong here. We are the 6th most populous country. We have the ability to show and deploy our asymmetric potential, which is very rare. We do it with such bravado and such perfection, yet we, as we are asymmetric, we've got these very basic things. We just sort of keep fumbling with them. I don't know why. It's possibly because...
Now then, this parallel economy is a bane or a boon?
No, I think it's a boon, because if it were a bane, we would have been in big trouble. It's actually...
Why? Since it's not showing into the positive indicators of the government's economy or the public economy, it is not getting favorable results from the international market, because the FDI that we are more... When you showcase that we have only $260 or $270 billion economy, but actually it's a shy of $1 trillion, so they are not coming in. If they are confirmed that it's such a big economy and it had such a big potential, they can be just making a beeline.
They should be making a beeline, but who makes the presentation? It's the government. It is not... How many presentations is the private sector supposed to make? It is not a bane, it is a boon. And why is it helpful? Is because, number one, it basically helps people pay their bills. It helps them deal with inflation that was rampant sometimes.
Generates employment also.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got so many people employed here. But what I'm trying to say is, every country has gone through this in some form or another. Our case is actually very different, but we are
different people.
We are... When I say asymmetric, I mean asymmetric.
Yes,
so
okay.
That's the point. I mean, it just has to be handled in a more, how do you say, more tactfully, in a tactful manner. It can't be just...
Okay. Doctor was itching to say something.
Well, I just going to add to what Faheem is saying. I think the basic problem is the government, or the state, I would say, because the governments keep on changing. So the state has been looking at the private sector or the hidden market with a different prism. It's never really looked at it as a partner.
Absolutely.
So
not a friend, but a foe.
Yeah, as a foe. So if, for example, let's bring this up. If the government or the state starts looking at this hidden market as a friend, imagine how we could grow tremendously, right? So that is the challenge.
Okay,
now, for example,
let me put on a hat from the government's perspective.
Okay.
Every 2 to 3 years, there is an amnesty scheme.
Yeah, that's
to
what I
get
want
the
to bring.
people in. That if you are running a parallel economy, please come with us. Every 2 to 3 years, there is a scheme or rather incentive to get them registered or filed. Government has taken up a stick also 0.6% and then 0.3 variable rates. But still, the government paying them, and they still want.
No. You see what the government regulations, they want them to follow their system. Who's in majority here? Out of the 1 trillion, who's in majority? Who's the
private sector? Monopoly of power.
To help them to drive this country, they will not create a system in join hands. So they'll have to reach out. They cannot use the stick. I mean, the incentive hasn't worked. And I'm telling you, the stick, it won't work. It hasn't worked in the dictatorships. It won't work. I've said that, I think, maybe a couple of times on various PTV programs.
No, so what is going to work then if the carrot is not working, if the stick is not working?
It requires to really understand, go down to that level. How can you really plug into that supply chain? How can you really have that inclusiveness? How can you have that inclusiveness in your programming, in your planning?
Okay.
I mean, I don't have the answers right away. It requires a detailed work, a detailed homework, but it needs to be done. And right now what the government is missing, and that's what they're doing. They bring out a strategy that, okay, we're just going to create infrastructure and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and eventually everything's going to become all right. It's not going to happen. There's no synergy.
So you mean to say the government is working on the peripheries? They're
No,
not
the
going
government
deep.
the government does little bits and pieces in silos. They do not have they do not have an inclusive program in which they can actually align the whole.
Okay. Now here comes the question.
They do not have a holistic picture of how to turn around.
If the government is unable to give a holistic structure or to give an overhaul system that changed into a profitable parallel economy, is the parallel economy or the private sector coming up with their own plans?
The private sector is doing, and it is growing. I think there are also that all of the private sector has grown over the years. I mean, because it's not documented, so we don't have statistics.
Yeah.
But people have done those assessments, and all of them have grown in double companies. Some of these show that in the form of companies, that these small as you go, and all of these working. That is why the the banking sector, he would be able to add more light. So I mean, I want to bring up another thing: rural sector. The rural sector, despite we being an agriculture society, somehow has got the strength it has. It has still not come into the mainstream.
True.
So how can we really harness that? How can we turn the what is going to be the
value-added
driver?
chain is missing,
What is
maybe.
going to be the engines of growth? What is going to be the driver which is really going to make our economy go forward? And I just want to bring a very important point here. The Pakistan Chinese, the CPEC, the CPEC, everyone's talking about the economic corridor. It's not an economic corridor as per se right now. It's a transport corridor right now. I want to. It can become the economic corridor. All we're doing is we're bridging the economic power engine of China to the rest of the world.
We are just transporters. You mean
We
to say?
are just the conduit. Now the potential.
appropriate word,
What's the
conduit.
potential? We are the conduit.
Yeah.
Yes, we can convert that conduit to become the economic corridor, and for that, this is what needs to be done.
Okay, for instance, if I can make you recall 2003 to 2005 period when Shaukat Aziz was here, the famous or notorious, as you like, banker who was here and who tried to re-establish Pakistani structures. There was yet another reforms period. There was ditching of the IMF, that we don't want to go with you. There was even a law passed that X percentage should not be crossed. Perhaps it was 65%. At the moment, this government is around 62, 63%. They are right there. But at that time, supported in the national media, of course, supported by the Pakistan. Now we have out this car out of the junkyard, and now we only have to start it and start running. Are we taking a square circle here, in square one, once again, that we have taken out this car out of the junkyard?
Do that, I think, every 3 years. Nothing.
Okay.
I say that with a bit of caution, but no. You see,
Every 3 years or every 5 years? Or 10
I was
years?
just about to interrupt when you were talking.
Yeah,
I was just
please.
about to say holistic, and you said the word. So I mean, that's the word that I want to talk about. I mean, I agree with Dr. Saab, as he said. We have to go back just a second. Friend or foe? Okay, this is literally a debate here. Okay, oh, the private sector is this. We still have not identified the private sector in Vietnam, Bangladesh, Iran, every country that I've mentioned here, including our not so friendly neighbor India. The private sector is very important. What did Mr. Shaukat Aziz do? I have certain reservations on his policies, but one thing he did very well was presentation. He gave a good gloss to Pakistan's image. We are horrible.
But people said it was only glitters. And
That's
perhaps
fine.
that was not gold.
So are many other economies. We just don't talk about it. The fact of the matter is, let it glitter, and just clean up your house in the meantime, because presentations are very important right now. We have a habit of taking 2 steps ahead, then 1 step back, then 3 steps ahead, then 2 steps back. And you see, this does not work. There's a term that I use in my business, because restructuring is one of my expertise. It's called blowback. Wrong somewhere. Your plan is not clear. Your is good. There is no reason on earth that you could face such a severe back. You have to tactical maneuver. Things. One, very good presentation structure. to
Presentations to showcase the audience. What is the
to
audience?
ourselves, to our own people, to our taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer, you're a taxpayer, Dr. Saab is a taxpayer. When was the last time we were respected? I'm sorry, I'll say it very openly. When was the last time now we're literally scared of the FBR. Any time, any notice can come. We're following the rules and we're the ones penalized. Those who are not paying tax, they're just laughing at us. Hey, why did you sign up in the first place?
They're waiting for another amnesty.
And they'll get it. They will get it. All I'm trying to say is that, look, we have to sometimes use a holistic, I'll use that word. From
Please.
Okay, you have to have a holistic approach to life. And Pakistan is heading, it started to hurt us. Humans only understand something after something hurts. Many great countries only rose after they had a big depression. Had they not had that depression, they would not have understood. So we
That's
felt
a blessing.
it's a blessing. So that we started to feel the pain. All I'm trying to say is three things. One, you have to have a very solid plan. It can go wrong, that doesn't matter, but its execution has to be even better. It might fail, doesn't matter. Do it again.